Hey guys, I'm here today with the Ogdoadic deck profile. I figured since we did the giveaway for a core, I would show you how you can play it, and it's really a fun and powerful deck. It's going to fall more into a budget player type deck. It's not like extreme budget per se, but we'll talk about the deck cost and run through the deck profile. Okay. First to start off with, we'll start with cost because that is an important factor for people building decks. But for base rarity, the main deck is going to be $190, and the extra deck is $170, coming out to a total of $360. And if you notice by the extra deck, yes, we're playing Invoked. Ogdoadic by themselves is just isn't enough. They really need another engine to really help them get going and set up disruptions. And then also there are different variants. You can play Chaos, you can play Invoked. I'm playing Invoked with a small Chaos package, which is really good as well. But with that aside, let's go ahead and get to the deck profile. So we're going to have one Aaron, the Ogdoadic King, one Amnesia, the Ogdoadic Queen, one Ogdo Abyss, one Alarit, one Curse, 3 Naya, and 3 Nunu. These are your starter cards and are just extremely powerful. It's basically a Foolish Burial, one Zoha, 3 Snake Rain, of course, like the MVP of your deck. 2 Ogdoadic Water Lily. You don't need to play 3. I would only play 2. However, you don't want to play just 1 because this, we'll just mention first, this card is completely searchable. You're going to have it every turn. But playing at 3, you just don't really want to draw this card. You'd rather just draw other cards, and you don't want to have just 1 in your deck because it gives, like, having a second one gives you follow-up plays. That's going to be it for the snake package. As for the big monsters, like the level 8s, running them at 1 is just fine. You don't need multiples because even though some of them are going to get banished, say for Invoked, or for, you know, they banish themselves sometimes. Alarit, the Ogdoadic Dark, lets you take 2 banished monsters and put them back in your graveyard as long as one of them is at least a reptile. But moving on, we have 3 Alistair the Invoker, 2 Invocations, and luckily for budget players, these are extremely budget now. You can get the gold rares for like $4. And then we have 3 Magical Meltdown. And that's it for our main deck Invoked package. Next, we got our Chaos package. We have 3 Chaos Space, 1 White Dragon and 1 Black Dragon. And then we have 1 Chaos Dragon Legionnaire. And then we are playing DPE, but feel free to cut this and play more hand traps. So we got 2 Fusion Destiny, and of course this is Plasma, but really it's going to be a dasher. I just don't mind still the mail, unfortunately. And 1 Celestial, of course. And then we were playing 3 Imperm, 2 Ghost Ogre, and a Monster Reborn. Monsters Reborn is actually pretty good because you can just special summon back any of your level 8 monsters that all put themselves in grave. So I think this is one of the few instances where I would actually play Monster Reborn. Other than that, if you're going to cut DPE, that's completely fine. What I would end up playing is a Boral Sword in your extra deck, and then you can play any other linked monster that you want. And then for these 4, if you're taking these out to make this more budget, which actually does cut about $35 of your extra deck costs and around $105 off your extra deck. So, you know, you're taking it down to a more $200 deck which is really nice but at the same time, this is going to push this deck into the really highly competitive category. But if you're going to cut these, I would play like Ghost Spells or Dark Rulers. For our purposes, we are not maining a Dark Ruler or Regeki or anything like that, because one, we have board wiping capabilities, but two, I think Imperm's fine. And we are actually just going to side deck our Forbidden Droplets or, Chalice, whatever, Dark Rulers, because I think with the format we're going into, I don't think they're going to be as powerful against the top deck. So I think Imperms are just better with the format that we are going into in a couple of weeks. All right, so that's it for the main deck. I'm going to shuffle these up quickly. Alrighty. And that is 41 cards. If you want, you can cut the Monster Reborn and go down to 40. But since all your cards are searchable, it's really not that big of a deal to go over a little over 40. For our extra deck, we're playing 2 Mechaba, 1 Invoked Ogdoadic, which we kind of covered the Invoked engine yesterday. And I also want to clear that up. Yesterday, we went over a couple of engines you can play in various decks. It wasn't a deck profile, so sorry for the confusion. Definitely don't try to play those as a deck, even though it probably weirdly would work. It was not meant to be a deck profile. The Brave token stuff and the DPE package, I was just showcasing what the 2 most popular engines are, and then like other engines that you can play that are more budget. If you don't know what an engine is, it's just a small package of cards that mesh well with your whatever archetype you're playing that can help enhance your strategy. It's not necessarily a deck by itself. It can be, but usually it's not. 1 Cross Sheep, 1 DPE, 1 Prayer Plant versus Anaconda. Like I said, you don't need to play this engine. I'm just giving this as an option because the deck is so cheap. I think that this is a good long-term investment that you can make for this deck or for future decks. 1 Ding Girsu, really good card. 1 Apollosa. 1 number 97 Jabluvion. This is figured into the cost of the deck, but unfortunately this is pretty expensive right now. I'm hoping that it will get reprinted and goes from the past 2, but we'll have to wait and see. 1 number 100 Numeron Dragon. Just a really good OTK card, and it does come up quite a bit. We're playing 2 Hope Harbinger, and then 1 Rika Queen Strenna, and 1 Sacred Tree Beast Hyperton. This card is insane in this deck, and we'll show you it works in conjunction with Rika Queen Strenna, but it's just a good omni-negate. Then 1 King of the Fair Limbs. One thing I would mention, if you are cutting DPE for your budget deck options, what I would do is probably play 1 Boral Sword and then cut the Verte and put in King of the Fair Limbs, or another King of the Fair Limbs, so having 2 copies, because this is just a good searcher for the deck. But we're pretty tight on an extra deck, so I can't run 2. All right, so we're going to go with a combo tutorial. Generally, you just need a Nunu and a way to get to Alistair, whether that's Magical Meltdown or just drawing Alistair. That's fine. And then I am going to play just 1 extra discard in case. I don't think we're going to need one, but it's just going to be a blank discard card. But basically what you're going to do is start off by activating your Nunu, sending it to the graveyard, which you can then dump a dark monster to your graveyard. We're going to send Alarit. From here, it's important that you activate Nunu's effect to special summon itself from the grave first before you normal summon, because you have to control no monsters or you have to control reptile monster. From here, we're going to normal summon the Alistair, activate its effect to add invocation to hand. And then from here, you're going to overlay, go into King of the Feral Imps. And usually I'll detach my Alistair just in case we get negated or something. If I have another light monster in hand, I can still make Mechava, which is nice. But we're going to search for our Naya. And you'll notice this deck has a great ability to keep searching. But we're going to activate our Naya, pitching it from our hand to activate its Foolish Burial effect. And we're going to send our curse. And then the other thing is this there's a lot of different combos. Depending if you open Snake Rain, you can just go Berserk basically. But this is like pretty much one of the most common combos that you'll go through. So we're going to activate Curse, treating the King of the Feral Imps. And then when this is special summon that way, you can special summon a, or make sure, I think it's level 4 or lower Ogdoadic monster in your graveyard. And since Naya was special summon, you can search Ogdoadic Water Lily to your hand, or any Ogdoadic spell or trap, but Water Lily is what we want. We don't play any other Ogdoadic spell or traps. All right, from here, one thing to note with Ogdoadic Water Lily, what it says is you can send one reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you have 5 or more reptile monsters with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon one of them. So before you activate Water Lily, you need to make sure you have 4 names, because you'll have the 5th name when you dump, because it's the special summon doesn't resolve until after the card is dumped. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, so we need 1 more. What we're going to do is link these 2 off. This gets banished when it leaves the field because of Curse's effect. But that's okay, we still have 4 names engraved. From here, we're going to activate our Ogdoadic Water Lily. And we're going to send Zoha. One thing to note is you aren't going to get into your snake boss monsters, at least the king and queen. With this combo, you really need Snake Rain, or you need to not commit to building out strong of a board. Really, king and queen don't do enough on their own. It's not near enough to stop your opponent. We're then going to special summon Zoha. Trying to think for a second. I think that's the ideal play we want to do here. Yeah, it is. One thing to note though, if you had your Chaos Space in hand, you wouldn't need to worry about getting this level 4. So what you could have done instead is just send one of your boss monsters like King or Queen, preferably King, to the graveyard and special summoned it instead. But since we don't have Chaos Space, assuming in our hand with this basic combo, we're going to go this way. From here, we're going to go ahead and activate our invocation. Of course, banishing Alistair. And our Nunu. Or not, actually, we cannot do Nunu, it has to be Curse, because we're going to need Nunu. and that's going to give us our Mechaba. Because we special summon Mechaba to a zone that cross sheep points to, we can then special summon our Nunu. And then, so Nunu does have an effect, and I'm pretty sure it's only active when you special summon it with its effect, not when it's just special summoned. But I'll read it, and if you think I'm wrong, just let me know. And then obviously this play will have to change a little bit. But it says you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, send one dark reptile monster from your deck to the graveyard. If you control no monsters or you control an Ogdoadic monster, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. Of course, it doesn't get banished because we went into an Xyz monster. Also, you cannot special summon monsters except for reptile monsters while this card is face up on the monster zone. So I think, and I could be wrong, that since we're special summoning it off cross sheet, it's not being special summoned because of its own effect. So I think that we're not locked into reptiles currently, but I could be wrong. In that case, let me know. But yeah, I think that we're okay here. So from this point, we're going to Xyz summon into Ricastrana. And at this point, we're going to activate our Alaret, triggering the Strana. We have two effects here. Since Strana was attributed, we can special summon it back. Not special summon it back, we can use it as a material, for a Xyz summon for a plant monster, which is going to be Sacred Tree Beast Hyperton. Then Alert's going to activate as well, shuffling back two of our banished monsters, which are both reptile. Important to note: do not shuffle your Alistair back into your, or I'm not shuffle, but don't add your Alistair back to your graveyard by Alert's effect, because you want to still get your invocation off. But from here, the next thing that we want to do is activate Sacred Tree Beast Hyperton. We want to activate its effect, but the way we're going to do that is we're going to activate our invocation, shuffling itself back into the deck to add Alistair back to our hand. And because we activate a spell card, Sacred Tree Beast lets us attach a card of the same type as material. So we're going to attach our Ogdoadic Water Lily. And basically, Sacred Tree Beast is kind of similar to Mechaba, but what it does is if your opponent activates a spell, monster, or trap effect, if you have the same kind of material on it, you can use that material as a negate, basically. Detach that material as a negate. So from here, you have limited options from here. I mean, obviously it's nice when we have more extenders if you draw a full hand, which we'll do a full hand to see what that looks like. But what we would most likely do is link these two off for our Verte, and then, activate Verte's effect and go into your Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, which is going to give you, depending on what's in your hand, one spell or monster negate, so non-negate, one monster spell or trap negate, depending on what's in your hand. We do have invocation, but not invocation, impermanence, but most likely you're just going to set your impermanence. But if you wanted to, the other thing is if you have impermanent hand and you have Mechaba, if you're worried about them using evenly matched, you can keep your impermanent hand and negate evenly matched. And then we have one quick play destruction, which is nice because this keeps coming back every turn. Hopefully I'm not wrong about Nunu, but I'm pretty sure I've done this online on Dueling Nexus, which won't let you misplay. So I think that it is a legal play. But let me know in the comment section if you know about this and what your opinion is. Are you allowed to then special summon that monster? I'm pretty sure that lock into reptiles only exists if you activate its special summoning effect, which you are not. But next what we'll do is we will shuffle up real good and draw a hand. I just usually like to go over what your basic combo is. Of course, things get a lot crazier if you just open the nuts, but hopefully that was helpful. I'm going to shuffle up real quick, and then we will go into drawing a hand and seeing what we get. Quick note, if you are watching this when this goes live, probably around 2:30 p.m. today, there will be a market watch tonight, and we're going to be going over a bunch of cool cards and some buyouts, but make sure you stay tuned for that. If you like market watches, of course. If you just like deck profiles, that's fine too. I am currently, as many of you might know, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And we have a huge storm coming through right now. So there might be some lightning or thunder rather going on in the background. So hopefully that's not too bothersome. So far it's been okay. I think tomorrow is when the severe weather really picks up for me at least. But if y'all are in Alabama or Louisiana or Southern Georgia or South Carolina, y'all be careful because there could be some tornadoes coming. All right, we're gonna go ahead and cut. So not really ideal here. And this is one of the reasons why I don't like playing Snakes Pure, because you can open up something like this, which just really isn't ideal. But for this hand, we'll do our Magical Meltdown. Add our Alistair. Almost summon our Alistair. Add Invocation to hand. From here, like as you can see, like we don't really have too many plays yet, or plays that we can really do. So we're just going to go into our Megaba play. So we're going to banish this and send our Aaron from our hand to go into our Megaba. Now, unfortunately, there's not really much we can do from here. If we had Chaos Space, that would help out a lot, but we don't. I mean, we could get our Cold Serpent on board, but it wouldn't really be effective, unfortunately. So that's really going to be the end of our play for this situation. We're going to have to wait for our next turn to see if we can draw something better. But that's not too bad. You have a monster negate and you hand traps that you draw. But we're going to reshuffle and hopefully not brick. But I guess that is a good thing, and which is why I really like playing the Invoked package, is because if you brick with your snakes, if you're not playing Invoked, you really can't do anything whatsoever. So it's really important that you play an engine in this deck, whether it be Chaos or playing like Orcus. I think to me, Invoked is the best option, but because Orcus kind of doesn't work well with any kind of light monsters, which this deck has, it's half lights. We're going to cut again and pray for a better hand. Okay, much better hand. We don't get Invoked, but that's okay. All right, so I'm going to decide what I want to do here. We're going to pitch Nunu, which is going to dump our Alarit. And then likewise, we're going to pitch our Naya. Which we will then dump our Curse. I'm going to activate Chaos Space. By the way, these are down a little bit to like the $10 to $12 range. So if you don't have yours yet, I would get them. We're going to pitch our Ogdoadic and add our Cold Serpent. And this is one of the reasons I really like playing Chaos Space in this deck. It does provide a little bit of advantage, of course, but really the best thing is getting like these big boss monsters out of your hand, putting another name in grave. Alrighty, from here, we are going to, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names in grave so far. We're going to special summon Naya. And then trigger our curse by that. Special summoning the remnant, or the Naya effect, adding the water lily. I'm gonna have to really think on this, because this is definitely not going to be easy. From here, let's see. Trying to think what the best way to go about this is. I'm gonna look through my extract real quick. So I need to have at least 4 names in grave. And if I attribute this, I'm gonna have 2 back. But I really need 3 back, so I'll have 3 in grave. And ideally, I'd want to go into an Xyz monster here with these rank 8s. But it would have to be interesting. It's kind of looking like we're not going to be able to get it off. But we're just gonna go ahead and tribute this. It's going to banish this. We're gonna activate our Alarit to put these back in grave, which we then have 3 names. I really need a 4th name in grave. Trying to think how I can do this. I might have to take this back, but I don't really have any other link tos. We'll just go into cross sheet, I guess. I just need to get these engraved. I'm going to activate my Ogdoadic water lily. I'm going to send Aaron the Ogdoadic king. Do I want to send Aaron the Ogdoadic king? Actually, I'm going to send Zoha. No, we're going to go with Aaron the Ogdoadic king. That's what we'll do. And what we're going to special summon is, I believe we want to do this. All right, so we're going to go for Overlord. That's going to be a board wipe, like a monster wipe on his turn, or just the opponent's turn. The bad news is from here, I really need like a link 3. Honestly, like, you know, this doesn't hardly ever come up, but like if I had a link 3, I could go into my Cold Serpent and then climb up to an Appaloosa, which would be ideal in this situation. But we're going to go ahead and go into Cold Serpent. We're going to banish Curse because I can get that back with Alaric. Get the Cold Serpent. And then from here, I want to activate Aaron, tributing these two. To special summon itself. And then since Black Dragon Cold Serpent hit the graveyard, I can search for the White Dragon. And from here, just because I'm looking a little bit light in my hand, I am going to just go ahead and get this on board. Because I want to draw a card, maybe draw a hand trap. And if I use the Overlord and it sends this card to Brave, it's going to let me search my Cold Serpent, which I can have for my following turn. So that's not too bad. So I'm going to banish the Cold Serpent. And then I'm going to activate Chaos Space, which if you don't know, its secondary effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished light or dark monsters that cannot be normal summoners set. Place that monster on the bottom of the deck, and then if you do, draw one card. So we're going to banish this, put this on the bottom of the deck, and then draw one card, which is a Naya, which is fine. It's not a hand trap, but it's, you know, follow-up plays for us. I actually don't know if I've normal summoned yet this turn. I don't think I've normal summoned yet this turn, but it doesn't really matter. That's fine. I don't think it matters because there's nothing we can really go into besides like a King of the Fairlands, but we've already used all of our, or Rick King Strena, but we've already used all of our big monster effects to tribute, so it doesn't really matter. But we're going to go ahead and use our Fusion Destiny. Sending our Destiny Hero Plasma or dasher. It's not actually plasma. It's just a stand-in until I get my dasher. And then of course getting your Phoenix Enforcer, which is really nice because these mesh well together, because when you activate this, you can also just activate this and destroy itself. And then you can just bring it back the next turn. So you're not actually having to lose resources when you activate your Overlord. And then a King, if you don't know what it does, basically you can send one random card. Okay, so if your opponent adds a card to their hand, except for the draw phase or damage step, you can send one random card from their hand to the graveyard. So, your opponent's constantly going to be searching no matter what deck they're playing. Most decks are searching cards. So whenever they search a card, you're able to send a card from their hand to the graveyard, which is really good. Just, kind of taking resources from them. If a monster your opponent controls is sent to the graveyard, which it will be when you activate your Overlord, you can add one light or dark reptile monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except for Aaron. So you can add your Nunu to hand from your deck, which is really, really good. It's going to give you a lot of follow-up plays. So even if you don't get into your Invoked play, which clearly we didn't, we still have a decent board set up. We've got a basically what is a the Prank Kids Battle Butler, except for this sends monsters to the graveyard. It doesn't destroy them, so even better. And one kick play destruction, one hand rip. And when this goes to grave, it's going to let us search the Cold Serpent, which is really nice as well. And then we have follow-up plays. So even if you don't get into your Invoked, you're still fine. You're still going to be okay. Obviously, if I hadn't drawn Fusion Destiny, I would probably use my normal summon here and then go off into Verte. But yeah, that's I think that's fine for kind of showing you how the deck plays. It's a very graveyard reliant deck. So most of your plays are going to be coming from your snakes from the graveyard. But it has a couple of engines in it, like the Chaos and the Invoked. So there will be times where you don't open one of your engines, but I think the engines are strong enough on their own to help each other out. If you at least open, one of the engine, like a good way to get to one of the engines. You saw like with our first full test hand, we just opened Invoked, which was fine. Mechabus still not terrible, and we had a hand trap. So even though that's not ideal, you're still able to play the game. But let me know what you guys think. I think honestly, for the price of this deck, there's not really many decks out there that are this cheap, except for maybe Invoke Shadal. Or there are decks that are cheaper than this, but as for competitive as this deck is, in my opinion, really the only other competitors it would have is Invoke Shadal, which is better than this deck, I think. But in my opinion, I have a lot more fun playing this deck. This is probably one of the funnest decks to play, in my opinion. I think another competitor would be Invoked Ogdoadic, of course. Any of the Invoked variants, which this is actually technically itself. And then I guess Flunderies is, well, people say Flunderies is budget, but not really, because if you're playing the competitive version, you have to play 3 Pot of Prosperities, which is going to be, let's see, $375 by itself. So with 3 Prosperities, you've already topped the cost of this whole deck and extra deck. So I guess keep that in mind if you're thinking Flunderies is a budget deck. And then you have to get Ryza as well. So even though the whole Flunderies deck is under $600, it's still not, I wouldn't consider $600 a budget deck. I would consider that very, it's not on the expensive end, but it's definitely in the higher mid range of, of a deck cost. Whereas to me, a true budget deck is anywhere between 150 to 400 max. 400 is, for me, is really cutting it. And then if it's an insanely good deck for $400 to $450, then I would say slowly invest into it. But yeah, I don't know if that would call a $600 deck budget. But other than that, I did want to update you. I'll have an Eldlick deck profile coming out tomorrow. I'm probably going to do a dual profile. So I have 2 ways I think you can play the deck. So I think that'll be exciting. And then, like I said, tonight we'll have a market watch with some cool cards. We're going to go over some tunes, some chaos cards, and a lot more. But thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later.